Chapter 1, Dad, Mom, I've decided to study abroad. Hearing their daughter finally agree, my parents' voices, an ocean away, were filled with relief. Ilara, you've finally seen the light, your father, and I can finally breathe easy. You get things ready on your end, and we'll start making arrangements immediately. The whole family should be back together in about a month. Unlike their cheerful tones, my voice was low and flat. I know. After a few more pleasantries, the call ended. It was pitch black outside my window. I hadn't turned on any lights, and my slightly reddened eyes showed little emotion. Half an hour later, footsteps approached the door. I didn't get up to greet him like I used to. Instead, I just sat there, watching as the harsh glare of the overhead light flickered on. Only after changing his shoes and walking into the living room did Ethan Hawthorne notice me leaning against the sofa. He barely glanced up. "Why are you still up? I was waiting for you. Didn't you see the messages I sent?" My tone wasn't particularly warm, but Ethan didn't seem to care, tossing out a casual excuse. "I was in the lab all day, didn't have time to check my phone." Without waiting to see if I believed him, he took off his jacket and headed for the bathroom. A moment later, as the sound of the shower started, the phone he'd left on the coffee table began to buzz. Remembering the things I'd heard earlier that day, my clasped hands trembled slightly. I leaned forward, picked up the still buzzing phone, and expertly typed in the passcode. The messages were from a girl with a pink bunny profile picture, her contact name saved as Winnie. "Ethan, thanks for tonight. I'm home safe." Noting the affectionate tone, I scrolled up. The last message was from 9 p.m. the previous night. "I'm flying back home today. Will you come pick me up?" There was no time stamp between the two messages, meaning he had replied instantly. Address. Yesterday, Ethan had come home at 8:50 p.m. and also went straight to the shower, not coming out for an hour. So that's what he was doing, replying to her messages. My eyelashes fluttered, and I bit my lip. Then I backed out of the chat and opened the contact saved as Ilara Monroe. From a reminder to bring an umbrella because it was raining, to a suggestion to take a break at lunch. From photos of a grocery cart to a cute dog on the street, it was a long, one-sided stream of white message bubbles. Dozens of them, all sent by me. He hadn't replied to a single one. The contrast was devastating. What a pathetic excuse for a girlfriend I was. But whether it was because I had already decided to leave or because I had truly let go, I felt no sting of pain at this discovery. I gently placed the phone back where I found it, my mind a chaotic whirl. I remembered the first time I saw Ethan Hawthorne. At our freshman orientation, he spoke on stage as the student representative. With a face so handsome it left you speechless, he instantly topped the campus crush list and was crowned the new campus beau. Over the years, girls pursued him in droves, all vying to win over the unattainable prize. But he was naturally cold, not even giving the campus queen the time of day, leaving a trail of broken hearts. I, of course, was one of the many he rejected, but I was more persistent than the others. The harsher the rejection, the more determined I became. Perhaps my efforts finally paid off. After a year of trying, and after being turned down 20 or 30 times, I finally became Ethan Hawthorne's official girlfriend. But even after we were together, he was never warm to me. He remained as distant as ever, ignoring my messages and calls, his words as scarce as gold. Having finally gotten my wish, I wasn't discouraged by his coldness. In fact, I worked even harder to maintain our relationship. After 3 years of dating, I had even convinced myself that this was just his personality, naturally reserved and distant. That was until my laptop broke a while back. I borrowed his, and while using it, I accidentally clicked on a folder and saw over 1,000 pictures of the same girl. I secretly copied one of the photos and asked a few friends who knew his circle. That's when I learned the truth. The girl on his flash drive was Willow Shaw, his childhood friend. Though they were part of the same group, the two of them were exceptionally close. People said Ethan had a crush on Willow and planned to confess after their final exams, but she shut him down with, "We'll always be best friends." Shortly after, Willow's family sent her abroad to study. He enrolled at Hudson University, and they went their separate ways. Only after learning all this did I understand. He wasn't naturally cold, he just hadn't found anyone he deemed worthy of his warmth. For the past 2 weeks, I'd been in a daze, trying to find the right moment to ask him if he was truly over Willow. But before I could, I heard another rumor. Someone told me the only reason Ethan agreed to date me was to forget Willow. He wanted to use a new relationship to fill the void she had left in his heart. If Willow didn't exist, I would have gladly spent another 10 years trying to melt his icy heart, because I was, after all, the only girlfriend he had ever publicly acknowledged. But knowing about Willow, after 3 years of his neglect hadn't broken me, I felt a deep weariness for the first time. I wanted to let go. I didn't want to be a tool for him to forget someone else. And I didn't want to wait for a man whose heart would always belong to his old flame. So I made a decision. I would leave him for good and without a word. Chapter 2, the 11 p.m. alarm rang, and Ethan finally emerged from the bathroom. Toweling his hair, he picked up his phone and went into the study. Seeing that he wasn't planning on sleeping, I frowned slightly. Ethan had a strict routine and never stayed up late. That alarm was his reminder to go to bed. I stood up and couldn't help but ask, "It's late. Aren't you going to sleep?" His fingers flew across the screen, his eyes glued to his phone. He didn't even look at me. "I have some project work to finish." Later, in 3 years, I had never seen him like this. He came home at 10:30 p.m. after picking up Willow, ignored his own bedtime, and effortlessly came up with an excuse to brush me off. I didn't call out his flimsy lie. I just turned and went back to my room. The study was diagonally across from the bedroom, and I could see inside clearly. The man who claimed to be busy with a project was cradling his phone, a faint smile playing on his lips, his gaze never wavering. After all this time together, it was the first time I had ever seen Ethan look so happy. I felt a little dazed. So, in front of the person he liked, even the coldest iceberg could melt. Is that right? It wasn't that he didn't know how to love. He just didn't love me. I closed the bedroom door and smiled silently. In 30 days, I would be gone, and Ethan would be free to pursue the love of his life without any constraints. Since I had already decided to let go, why torment myself? The next day was beautiful. I went out early and bought breakfast. When I got back, Ethan was just getting up. We sat across from each other and ate. As soon as he finished, he grabbed his jacket, ready to leave. Remembering our plans from last week, I called out to him. "It's Saturday. Weren't we supposed to go to Crescent Mountain to see the sunset?" Ethan's hurried steps paused. "My advisor assigned some last-minute tasks. I can't make it." I silently swallowed the piece of bread in my mouth and nodded. Seeing my silence, he added, "I'll take you next time. I should be free next month." If the old me had heard him say that, I would have jumped for joy. But now my face was blank. I just gave a soft, The stark difference in my reaction seemed to throw him off. His eyes swept across the room and landed on the calendar on the table. He found a new topic. "When did you get a countdown calendar? What's so important in 30 days? Looking at the number 30 circled in red, I reached over and tore off the top sheet. The number instantly changed to 29. "Bought it this morning. I have something important to take care of in a month. This is just a daily reminder." Hearing nothing unusual in my tone, Ethan didn't press further. He walked to the entryway, put on his shoes, and opened the door. "I'll bring you back some pineapple tarts later. You just relax at home." The sound of the door closing swallowed the end of his sentence. I let out a soft, humorless laugh as my eyes welled up. After breakfast, I pulled out a large bag and started clearing out all the useless things in the apartment, planning to throw them out later. The couple's mugs we'd never used, the various razors I'd bought for him, the empty photo frame I'd gotten for a picture of us. Each item had been carefully chosen by me, and not a single one had ever been used by Ethan. Just like this apartment, I had decorated it to be a home, but he had only ever treated it like a dorm room or a hotel, never putting any heart into it. But it didn't matter. He wouldn't be needing these things anymore. After I left, he would surely move out, and this apartment would be empty again. All traces of us would be erased. Chapter 3, the day flew by, and soon it was dark. After dragging the full bag of trash down to the curb, I was finally done. I collapsed onto the sofa to rest and opened my social media feed. The latest post was from the girl with the pink bunny profile picture. It was a picture of a sunset. In the center photo, a man's silhouette was visible, his outstretched hand holding a box of pineapple tarts. Staring at the stunning sunset on the screen, a flicker of understanding crossed my eyes. I had gone to great lengths to get Willow's contact information without Ethan knowing. After adding her, I saw a post she made one day. I'm craving those pineapple tarts from abroad. That's when I finally understood why he was so fond of buying me that particular dessert. Slowly, I discovered more clues. The specific brand of laundry detergent he insisted on, the flowers he gave me. The decorative items he brought home, I found matching ones on Willow's social media feed. Ethan was supposed to be with me to forget Willow, but instead, he had gotten lost in the past, turning me into her stand-in. As I thought about it, I let out a soft sigh, my eyes filled with a complex mix of emotions. Perhaps I had been sad too many times because there was no sadness left in me. I pressed a hand to my slightly heavy chest, got up, opened the fridge, and started munching on a cucumber. The hands on the clock spun round and round. It was nearly midnight when Ethan finally came home. He was empty-handed, having seemingly forgotten the promise he'd made before he left. He walked in, looked around, and frowned. Does it feel like something's missing in here? I cleared out some things we don't use this afternoon. Ethan nodded, slowly unbuttoning his cuffs, not giving it a second thought. Watching his tall figure, I lowered my eyes. The truth was, if he had just looked a little closer, he would have noticed that most of the missing items were things I used every day. He was smart. He could have easily guessed I was preparing to leave. But his heart and mind were completely consumed by Willow. It was only natural that he wouldn't notice these subtle changes, right? After all, who would pay attention to the strange behavior of a girlfriend who was more like a roommate? As I was mocking myself, Ethan suddenly asked me a question. Where can I get one of those custom shaker charms made? I'm not really up on the latest trends. Willow had just posted about it last night, and today he was already planning to get one for her. I froze for a moment before answering. Shaker charms are a new trend. It's hard to find a reliable custom maker on such short notice, but I happen to know how. I can make it for you. Hearing that I could do it, Ethan looked a bit stunned. He seemed to realize how inappropriate it was to ask his girlfriend to make a gift for the girl he liked. But perhaps his desire to please Willow was stronger, because in the end, he nodded. I'll send you the design and specifications. I hummed in agreement and turned away before he could see the redness in my eyes. That night, I stayed up all night, referencing Willow's social media post to make the charm. I handed it to him just before he left in the morning. Seeing my red-rimmed eyes, a rare look of concern crossed his face. He thanked me in a low voice. I shook my head, my voice heavy with fatigue. Don't mention it, as long as you like it. Ethan didn't protest further and left the room. Watching his retreating back, my lips moved, forming a sentence that was barely a whisper. Consider it my final gift to you both. After that, Ethan didn't come home for a full night. He didn't notice anything was amiss. His days were spent either in class or with Willow. He left early and came back late, sometimes not even seeing me at all. I didn't bother him either. I continued packing my things, and the apartment grew emptier by the day. A few days later, as I was sorting through my winter clothes, my phone suddenly rang. Ilara, Ethan's drunk. Could you come pick him up from the karaoke bar? Ethan was drunk. I thought he didn't touch alcohol. I frowned but didn't overthink it. I grabbed my phone, went downstairs, and hailed a cab. The karaoke bar wasn't far. 20 minutes later, I found the private room. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open gently and saw him immediately. Ethan was slumped in a girl's arms, the two of them whispering intimately, looking just like a couple in love. Chapter 4, seeing the intimate scene, my heart skipped a beat. I took a deep breath before walking over and extending my hand to Willow. Hello, I'm Ilara Monroe, Ethan's girlfriend. At my words, Willow shook my hand while trying to push Ethan away, attempting to wake him. Ethan, your girlfriend's here. Wake up, Ethan, his face flushed from the alcohol, just slumped back into Willow's arms, grabbing her hand and murmuring, "You're my girlfriend." An awkward silence fell over the room. My face, however, remained calm. I took a few capsules out of my bag and handed them over. He's drunk. I brought something to help him sober up. Let him clear his head a bit before we go back. After he swallowed the pills with some water, Ethan did indeed become more lucid. He looked up, saw my face, and immediately scrambled out of Willow's embrace to explain. I got confused just now. I said nothing, just offered a small smile. I know, let's go home. Ethan agreed and grabbed his jacket, but a few of his friends, clearly also drunk, blocked his way. Why are you leaving already? Ethan, you're always buried in your experiments and projects. We barely see you once a year. We had to use Winnie as bait just to get you out. Don't be a deserter. Yeah, man, our game's about to start. It's not cool to leave now. The guys didn't care if he wanted to or not. They pulled him back down and started explaining the rules. We're playing big tonight, spin the bottle. Whoever it lands on has to reveal a secret to everyone. Ethan didn't seem to want to leave either. He glanced at me, but my expression was unreadable. Since we're here, let's just play. Hearing me agree, the guys cheered and started the game. On the very first round, the bottle landed on Ethan. Everyone got excited. Ha ha ha, we finally got you. Ethan, but since it's your first time, we'll go easy on you. Just show us who's pinned at the top of your contacts and your chat list. It was indeed a light penalty, but Ethan fell silent. A few of the girls, however, started to protest. What's the point of that? Ethan has a girlfriend. Of course she's the one he has pinned. Seeing he had backup, Ethan's expression remained indifferent. Since you all already know, there's no need to look. Let's pick something else. But his friends were insistent, and catching him off guard, snatched his phone. When they opened it and saw the name Winnie, the room went dead silent. Everyone just stared at each other, speechless. Ethan didn't offer a single word of explanation. He took his phone back, stood up, and walked out. You guys play on. I'm going to the restroom. He was gone for a good 10 minutes. Worried he might be sick, I went to check on him, but as I neared the restrooms, I heard his voice. I was drunk, not dead. Why did you deliberately spin the bottle to me? And why that specific request, just to make everyone uncomfortable? Ethan, everyone knows you've been in love with Willow for years but could never say it. I was just trying to help you out, to finally make it happen for you. Your girlfriend is still completely in the dark. It's not fair to her. I figured if we just brought this out into the open, she'd know to back off. In response to his friend's well-intentioned meddling, Ethan's tone was laced with impatience. You don't need to worry about my affairs. Don't ever do something like this on your own again. Listening to their conversation, I couldn't help but smile, though the corners of my eyes grew moist and red. I took a deep breath, turned into the women's restroom, splashed cold water on my face and dried it. Then I sent Ethan a message. Let's go, I'm waiting outside. After that, I slung my bag over my shoulder and slowly walked downstairs. Just as I reached the entrance, my mom called. She rambled on for a bit before finally asking if I was ready. My voice was completely detached. I'm ready on my end, I can leave any time. Just as I finished speaking, Ethan's voice came from behind me. Leave, where are you going? Chapter 5, turning to see Ethan's cold expression, I instinctively lowered my gaze. It's nothing, I have a competition to attend in a few days. As the excuse left my lips, I was startled. I had learned to lie, too, but seeing the indifferent look on his face, I didn't dwell on it. In this 3-year-long chase, all I wanted was to exit gracefully. I didn't want to be a pathetic, abandoned loser. Although I was leaving because Willow had returned, I didn't want him to know. I planned to disappear quietly. He didn't like me anyway. Whether I said goodbye or not, he wouldn't really care, would he? Ethan, oblivious to my thoughts, hailed a taxi. Just as we were about to get in, Willow came running down from upstairs. Ethan, you left your phone. Ilara, let's exchange contact info. After handing him the phone, Willow looked up at me with a bright smile. I glanced at Ethan. Seeing no objection from him, I hesitated for a moment before opening my QR code. After Willow scanned it, she gave me a look of surprise. She opened her mouth as if to ask something, but the words that came out were simply, goodbye. Once we were in the taxi, the cool night breeze began to sober Ethan up. He finally, belatedly, offered an explanation, his tone still flat. Ilara, Winnie and I grew up together. I pinned her chat in high school and just forgot to change it all these years. I didn't respond. After a long silence, Ethan finally turned to look at me, only to see my face streaked with tears. In 3 years of dating, it was the first time he had ever seen me cry. He seemed flustered. You, what's wrong? Nothing. The wind was strong and blew some sand in my eyes. With that, I wiped my tears away and forced a smile. I turned to watch the passing scenery, my mind replaying Willow's surprised expression. The moment she realized I had been secretly looking at her social media, I had lost completely. That's why I was crying. Because in this love triangle, I would always be the one in the shadows, the one begging for scraps of affection. If I hadn't been so stubborn in pursuing Ethan, If I hadn't fallen for him and stayed in the country for him, would I have been able to keep my dignity? But there are no what-ifs in life. I had no one to blame but myself for the path I had chosen. At least it was all about to end. I would soon be free. When we got home, the first thing I did was tear another page off the calendar on the dining table. Seeing the large, bold 21, Ethan found it jarring for some reason. He instinctively looked at me. I kept my head down and walked into the bedroom, not noticing his gaze. After washing up, Ethan stopped me as I was brushing my hair. He leaned in to kiss me. He rarely initiated such intimate gestures. For years, I had been the one to ask for a kiss, and even then, it was just a brief peck. Seeing him so proactive for the first time, I froze for a moment before raising a hand to push him away. "You've had too much to drink today. You should get some rest." As I turned to leave, Ethan grew more agitated. He felt as if something was slipping from his control, and he instinctively wrapped his arms around me. This time, I didn't push him away. Only then did his racing heart begin to quiet down. Chapter 6. When I woke up, I was surprised to see Ethan sitting on the sofa. Seeing me awake, he quickly put down his book and stood up. "Didn't we say we'd go see the sunset? The weather hasn't been great lately, so how about I take you to Universal Studios first? We can go to Crescent Mountain when it clears up." Faced with his well-planned invitation, I looked at him calmly for a long moment before giving a slight nod. For 3 years, I had been the one pestering him for dates. He had never once suggested an outing himself. So, hearing him say this today, I couldn't help but be surprised. Had he noticed something was wrong? I had already decided to let him go, so going out with him no longer filled me with the same giddy excitement it once did. We spent the afternoon at the park, wandering around and trying a few rides. Noticing my persistently cool expression, Ethan couldn't help but ask, "Are you not having fun?" I offered a faint smile and shook my head gently. "No, I'm having a great time." A nearby photographer saw the attractive couple approaching and hurried over. "Would you two like a photo?" Ethan paused. It suddenly occurred to him that in 3 years of dating, we had never taken a single picture together. Just as he was about to speak, his phone rang. Seeing the caller ID, he held up a hand and took the call. I couldn't hear what was said on the other end, but his expression changed slightly. I watched him quietly. When he suddenly turned his head, I followed his gaze. Willow Shaw, wearing a bunny ear headband, came into view. The moment he saw her, Ethan walked over, his face lighting up. "Winnie, what are you doing here?" he asked, clearly delighted. The second Willow appeared, he forgot everything else. I lowered my eyes and politely declined the photographer's offer, then slowly walked towards them. It seemed we wouldn't be getting that one and only photo together before I left after all. Willow beamed. "I came with a senior from school today, but he had to leave for something. I was getting bored, and then I saw someone who looked just like you from behind." "I can't believe it's really you, what a coincidence." Ethan, at her words, Ethan's joy immediately turned to a cold frown. "A senior? What senior? What's his name? Do I know him? What's your relationship? Why is he asking you out as soon as you get back?" Watching his urgent, interrogating demeanor, I froze in place, my fingers unconsciously clenching into fists. "You know him. It's Leo Lawrence, the senior from our last year of high school. He was also planning to study abroad 2 years ago, and I helped him get in touch with a professor. He just wanted to thank me." Even though Willow explained, Ethan's expression remained dark. "If you want to go anywhere from now on, just ask me. Don't go out with shady guys like that. I worry about you." In all the time I'd known him, I had never seen him show such strong possessiveness towards anyone. A self-deprecating look flashed in my eyes. In 3 years together, he had never once said anything like that to me. He probably wouldn't even notice if I stayed out all night with another man. Next, worried about leaving Willow alone, Ethan suggested the 3 of us hang out together. Willow agreed without a second thought. I just nodded silently and followed them towards the couple's haunted house. The maze-like rooms were pitch black, with terrifying ghosts popping out at every turn. Willow hadn't stopped screaming since we entered, inching along the wall in fear. Ethan stayed by her side, carefully protecting her. Watching them get closer and closer, I said nothing and pushed open a nearby task door. This haunted house was specifically designed for couples. As soon as we stepped inside, the mission board read, "A man and a woman must kiss to receive the key." Reading this, Willow looked troubled. She glanced around. Everyone else was a couple, holding hands. She was all alone, and with spooky figures flashing around her, she was desperate to get out. She grabbed the first single man who walked in. "Excuse me, could you help me with?" Before she could finish, Ethan, who had been waiting nearby, took her hand, pulled her into his arms, and gave her a light peck on the lips. The moisture of the kiss still lingered on Willow's lips. She stared at him with wide eyes. Ethan didn't look up. He simply took the key that popped out, handed it to her, and said in a low voice, "You're scared. You go first." Then he turned his head and saw me, finally remembering I was there. His expression shifted. He seemed to be searching for an explanation, a way to justify the absurd act of kissing another girl right in front of me. "Winnie's easily scared. I was afraid she—" Before he could finish his sentence, Willow let out a shriek and darted out. Seeing the large group of costumed actors behind her, Ethan, terrified she would be frightened, wrapped an arm around her and ran towards the exit. The narrow passage instantly descended into chaos. Caught in the crowd, I watched their two figures recede into the distance. I'm always the one left behind, aren't I? Chapter 7, although she had escaped the haunted house, Willow was still shaken, patting her chest as her mind replayed the terrifying scenes. Then she remembered the kiss, and a blush instantly crept up her cheeks. She shot Ethan a playful glare. "Ethan, that was so impulsive of you. Even if you were worried about me, you shouldn't have done that in front of your girlfriend. She's definitely going to get the wrong idea." They had left in such a hurry that Ethan hadn't seen my reaction. He felt a little uncertain himself, so he didn't reply. Glancing back at the closed door, Willow continued to ramble. "That task is so strict. How is Ilara going to complete it by herself? She's not going to just grab a random guy and kiss him, is she?" Ethan shook his head. "She wouldn't." Hearing his confident tone, Willow gave him a surprised look. "You're that certain?" "Yes, she loves me. She doesn't have eyes for anyone else." Just as I reached the exit, I heard his words. A bitter smile formed on my lips, so he knew everything. He knew I loved him to the point of no return. Is that why he felt so free to hurt me so recklessly? I smoothed my hair, which was damp with cold sweat, and pushed the door open. Seeing me emerge, Willow quickly came over and took my hand affectionately, her face full of concern. "Ilara, how did you get out?" I took a few steps to the side, creating distance between us, and replied in a flat tone. "It was simple. I just gave up on the game. The staff will let a player out if they quit." Hearing how easily I said it, Willow's eyes widened as she looked at Ethan. "You can quit." "Then why did we?" Before she could finish, Ethan cut her off. "I was too worried about you. I'm sorry." The blush on Willow's face hadn't faded. She looked at me, her tone probing. "Well, I don't mind, as long as you're not upset, Ilara. Ethan and I used to kiss all the time when we played house as kids. It was just for fun, nothing serious." Watching the two of them go back and forth, I couldn't say a word. I just silently walked towards the exit. After the ordeal, both of them were exhausted. Willow said her goodbyes and went home alone. Only after her car was out of sight did Ethan turn his attention to me. "You must be tired too. Let's go get something to eat. Is Italian okay?" Seeing his uncharacteristically proactive behavior today, I guessed he felt guilty about the kiss and was trying to make it up to me. At this point, I didn't really care about such small things anymore, so I acted as if nothing had happened and agreed. We went to a nearby French restaurant, where Ethan had specifically booked a private room on the second floor. Despite the beautiful, sweeping view of the city at night and the romantic candlelight dinner before me, my expression remained blank. I stared blankly at the yellow roses in the vase. Ethan was trying to think of something to say when a notification popped up on his phone. He opened it, read the message, and almost instantly shot to his feet. Something suddenly came up and I have to go. "Ilara, will you be okay eating alone?" I glanced at him but didn't ask what had happened. I just gave a slight nod. Ethan grabbed his jacket and rushed downstairs. Just then, the waiter brought over the dishes we had just ordered. Seeing the waiter's surprised look as he glanced around the empty table, I said nothing, simply picked up my knife and fork and began to enjoy my dinner. I finished at exactly 7 o'clock. After calling a ride, I idly opened my social media feed. I refreshed the page, and Willow's latest post jumped out at me. The picture was taken in a hospital. Her lower leg was wrapped in layers of gauze, with a faint trace of blood visible. The caption read, "So unlucky. How do you get into a multi-car pileup just from going out to have fun? Back in the country and already in the hospital. Chapter 8. Back at home, I received a message from Ethan's junior colleague from the lab. Hey, Alara, why did Ethan take 4 or 5 days off? I sent him a message, but he hasn't replied. Did something happen? I didn't even have to guess why he was taking time off, but I still made up an excuse for him. After all, Ethan was practically a fixture in the lab, never late or leaving early. Taking so many days off at once was bound to raise questions. He has a family emergency. After replying, I walked over to the dining table and tore another page from the calendar. 21 became 20. After tomorrow, the countdown would be in the teens. Thinking about my impending departure, I took a deep breath and dragged my tired body into the bathroom. Perhaps because I had been running around all day, I slept exceptionally soundly that night, not waking up until noon the next day. The apartment was quiet. Everything was in its place, untouched. Ethan hadn't come home again. I was used to it by now. I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of milk, and slowly sipped it, starting another day alone. Day after day, the number on the calendar went from 20 to 15. There was no word from Ethan. It was as if he had vanished from my world. I kept myself busy packing my luggage and preparing the necessary documents. Only in my spare moments did I remember I even had a boyfriend. As for Ethan, he was probably busy taking care of Willow, having never once thought of me. When Monday came, the junior colleague messaged me again, asking why Ethan still hadn't shown up at the university. I finally gave him a call. "Where are you?" There was a half-minute of silence on the other end before Ethan gave his standard, formulaic answer. "I'm busy with something right now. I can't come back for a while." Hearing his vague response, I finally couldn't hold back what was on my mind. Did something happen to Willow? Realizing he couldn't hide it anymore, Ethan told me the truth. Winnie was in a car accident a few days ago on her way home. Remembering that social media post, I asked another question. "Is it serious?" "It's a minor injury, no broken bones, but Winnie is afraid of needles and hates taking medicine. She can't eat or sleep well in the hospital, so she needs someone with her. It was my fault she got into the accident because I didn't drive her home. I feel guilty, so I've been staying at the hospital with her. I hope you don't mind." Hearing the deep worry in his voice over such a minor injury, I wanted to say it was fine, but the words wouldn't come out. Hearing no response, Ethan thought I was jealous and quickly apologized. "I'm sorry, Alara. I know I've made you worry during this time. I'll come back and be with you as soon as Winnie is better." I didn't put any stock in his promise. I just reminded him to officially request his leave of absence and then hung up. Time flowed by like water. The countdown went from 15 to 10 and then to single digits. 3 days before I was due to leave, I took my prepared study abroad application materials back to the university and had one last meal with my friends. When they suddenly learned I was going abroad, they were all reluctant to see me go, toasting me one by one in farewell. "Alara, you'll be gone for years. And since your parents work abroad, you might not even come back. This is all so sudden. Parting is a part of life, but we'll all be thinking of you. We hope everything goes smoothly for you. No matter what, you have to promise to stay in touch." I was deeply moved by their blessings and reminders, raising my glass and drinking it all to show my gratitude. My roommates looked around and, not seeing Ethan, asked curiously, "You're leaving so soon. Why isn't Ethan here with you to handle the paperwork? Don't tell me you haven't told him yet." I lowered my head and smiled faintly, avoiding a direct answer. "He's been very busy lately and can't get away." Everyone knew that the campus beau was a busy man, so they didn't think much of it and turned to comfort me. A long-distance relationship isn't that big of a deal. As long as you remember and love each other, you can make it work. I smiled back, then raised my glass to hide the complex emotions in my eyes, though it couldn't mask the melancholy welling up in my heart. Love can indeed cross mountains and seas to sustain a relationship. Unfortunately, Ethan didn't love me. Chapter 9, the farewell party didn't end until 3 or 4 in the morning. When I got back to the apartment, the clock on the wall already pointed to 1. I reached up and tore another page from the calendar. 2 days left. I woke up very early. I cleaned the entire apartment from top to bottom, then dragged all the extra things I had sorted out downstairs and threw them away. After that, I took the diaries I had written and the secret photos I had taken during our relationship into the study. I fed them into the shredder, page by page, and threw the remains out with the kitchen trash. From now on, this apartment, where Ethan and I had lived for 3 years, would hold no trace of Alara Monroe. On the final day of the countdown, I had a rare, peaceful night's sleep. It was a long, deep sleep. When I pulled back the curtains, I was greeted by a bright, sunny day. A perfect day for leaving. I got up, went to the kitchen, and put the last of my food in the microwave. Then, I tore off the final page of the calendar. Just as the microwave dinged, I heard the sound of a key turning in the lock. Ethan, who hadn't been back in over half a month, sensed something was off the moment he walked in. Many parts of the room were empty, and the calendar on the table was completely bare. The sight was unsettling. "Why is so much stuff gone?" he asked. My voice was perfectly calm. I threw out what I didn't need. "You can buy new things you like later." Ethan nodded, not thinking much of it, and carried the groceries he'd just bought into the kitchen. As he passed the dining table and saw my simple meal, he couldn't help but take the plate away. "It's your birthday today. Why are you eating this? Stop, I'll cook for you." I was a little surprised. He actually remembered. I sat on the sofa, listening to the sounds from the kitchen and watching the clock on the wall tick by second. Just as he was bringing the last dish to the table, his phone, which was on the table, rang again. He put down the dish and answered. "Ethan, where did you go? Winnie is refusing to take her medicine again. You need to come to the hospital and talk to her." It was the voice of a middle-aged woman, sounding very much like Willow. I guessed it was probably her mother. Ethan didn't agree immediately. He looked down at my expression, as if seeking my permission. "Go on, you're busy." Hearing my flat tone, Ethan let out a sigh of relief. But he still felt like he owed me, quickly promising to celebrate my birthday properly in a few days. I shook my head slightly and declined with a smile. Seeing my expression, Ethan felt an inexplicable unease. He was about to ask what was wrong when the doorbell rang. He hurried to the door and accepted a mango cake he had ordered not long ago. When he returned, my expression was back to normal. I walked up to him and took the cake as if I didn't want to delay him any longer. Ethan's guilt deepened. He glanced at the time. He still had a few minutes. He walked to the table and opened the cake box. "I'll leave after you make your wish." I placed the candles on the cake and lit them. Clasping my hands together, I voiced the wish in my heart. "I hope Ethan Hawthorne gets everything he's ever wanted and can be with the person he loves forever." Hearing my words, a smile appeared in his cool eyes. He couldn't resist ruffling my hair. "What kind of wish is that? Aren't we already together?" Seeing the smile in his eyes, I smiled back but didn't explain. I just reminded him that he was running out of time. Ethan checked his watch, then waved at me and turned towards the door. Just as he was about to close it, I instinctively called out to him. "Ethan, actually." Ethan turned around and looked at me. "What did you say?" Seeing his face, the rest of my words got stuck in my throat. "It's nothing. Go on, be careful." Ethan didn't overthink it. He nodded and closed the door behind him. As the sound of his footsteps faded away, the words that had been on the tip of my tongue finally echoed in the empty room. "Ethan, I'm actually allergic to mangoes. And actually, today is my last day with you." The words were as light as air, dissipating silently. When the clock on the wall struck 12, I stood up and threw the food and the cake in the trash. Then I went back to the bedroom, retrieved the suitcase I had packed long ago, and took out a marker. On the last page of the calendar, the one marked with a 0, I left a single sentence. "Ethan Hawthorne, let's break up." Signed with my name, my decision was final. The door opened and closed one last time. I walked out with my suitcase, leaving the apartment I had once called home. I never looked back. Chapter 10. After leaving the hospital, Ethan saw that it was still early. He decided to go home and take me out for a nice dinner to make up for neglecting me recently. The apartment, usually lit up, was dark. He checked his watch, 9:30 p.m. Had she gone to bed this early, or was she out and not back yet? Ethan wasn't sure, but the apartment was eerily quiet, as if no one was there. He'd been running around all day and was covered in sweat, so he went straight into the bathroom. Half an hour later, he came out, toweling his wet hair. He still didn't see me, and his brow furrowed. In his memory, I never stayed out late. Why wasn't I back yet? He walked over to my bedroom and gently pushed open the ajar door, freezing on the spot. The walls, once covered with photos and artwork, were now completely bare. The bed, once adorned with my favorite duvet cover, was stripped. Ethan couldn't believe what he was seeing. He rubbed his eyes several times, but the room remained empty. He abruptly threw down the towel and rushed into the room. After a frantic look around, he pulled open the drawers and the closet, only to find them completely empty. Alara had moved out, with all her things. The thought sent a wave of panic through him. He scrambled out of the bedroom and checked every single room. The bookshelf in the study was half empty. The bathroom contained only his toiletries. The blankets and stuffed animals in the living room were gone. The mug she had bought for the kitchen had vanished. With every missing item, Ethan's heart sank deeper into a dark abyss. By the time he fully realized that there was no trace of me left in the apartment, he felt as if he'd been hit over the head with a club. His mind was buzzing. His face was etched with disbelief. His breathing grew ragged, and his hands gripped the edge of the table so tightly that the veins on their backs bulged. His panicked eyes darted around a final time, finally landing on the calendar in front of him, the one marked with a large 0. Even more glaring than the 0 was a line of black marker. His vision was excellent. He saw the words instantly. "Let's break up." His hand trembled as he snatched the calendar and held it close. The words "break up" hit him like two heavy stones, instantly turning his eyes bloodshot. Alara wanted to break up with him. The thought crashed into his mind, and he lost control. He grabbed his phone, found my number, and dialed. After a long series of rings, he was met with a recorded message. The user's phone was off. The unanswered call was like a bucket of cold water poured over his head. He fumbled to pull on his jacket, ran out of the apartment in his slippers, and hailed a cab, speeding towards the university. He made it to the women's dormitory just before curfew. He stopped a female student and asked her to go to room 508 and tell Alara Monroe to come down. 10 minutes later, the dormitory doors opened. Ethan's heart leaped. But the person who walked out was a huge disappointment. It wasn't me. It was my roommate, Chloe Shelby. Chloe was shocked to see the usually aloof campus beau looking disheveled and frantic. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" "Where's Alara? Tell her to come down." The two spoke at the same time. Hearing what he said, Chloe's surprise grew. "Alara's not in the dorm. Her flight was today, I think. Didn't you know?" The word flight was all Ethan needed to hear. Without a second thought, he turned and sprinted off campus. On the way to the airport, he tried calling me again. The moment the call connected, his heart, which had been in a free fall, finally found its footing. It was immediately followed by a surge of pure rage. Chapter 11. After a journey of over 10 hours, Alara Monroe landed in Paris. Her parents, Robert and Helen, were waiting at the gate. As soon as they saw her, they waved enthusiastically. Alara over here, seeing her parents again after 6 months, her spirits instantly lifted. She ran and threw herself into their arms. "Dad, Mom, how long have you been waiting?" Her dad took her luggage while her mom hugged her tightly and kissed her cheek, her voice filled with joy. "Just over an hour, not long at all. But you must be exhausted after such a long flight, sweetie." No matter how old she was, in her mother's embrace, Alara felt like a child again and couldn't help but want to be pampered. I'm so tired, Mom. You'll have to make me lots of delicious food to mend my broken heart." Her mom playfully tapped her nose, her eyes full of affection. "You little foodie. Just tell me what you want, and Mom will make it all for you." The family of 3 laughed as they headed home. As soon as they arrived, her dad dropped the luggage and went straight to the kitchen to start preparing dinner, while her mom led her into the bedroom. Seeing the sun-drenched room and the freshly made bed, Alara dropped her suitcase and flopped onto the mattress. "This bed is so soft, Mom. You know me best. You're tired, so rest up for a bit. I'll call you when dinner is ready." Alara nodded eagerly and watched her mom leave, then stretched her arms out with a yawn. Smelling the sun-dried scent of the linens, her tense nerves slowly began to relax, and her heavy eyelids closed. After prepping the ingredients, her dad peeked in and saw she was asleep. He gently pulled the curtains to block the harsh sunlight. Just as he was about to leave, the phone on her nightstand started vibrating. Afraid it would wake her, he quickly grabbed the phone and slipped out, quietly closing the door behind him. He went into the kitchen, but the phone kept ringing. He finally looked down at the screen. The name, Ethan Hawthorne, made his expression turn serious. He nudged his wife, motioning for her to look. His wife glanced over, immediately put down the spatula she was holding, and her face took on an unreadable expression. The couple exchanged a long look before her dad finally answered the call. Ethan's angry voice came through the phone. "Elara Monroe, what is the meaning of this?" Hearing his tone, the two exchanged another look and silently agreed not to respond. The lack of a reply only made Ethan angrier. "Where are you? Send me your address. We need to talk in person." After a few more seconds of silence in the kitchen, her mom finally spoke. "I'm afraid that won't be possible. Elara is in France now. You can try contacting her after she wakes up." With that, her mom hung up and went back to her cooking. Seeing her so calm, her dad grew anxious. "Who is this guy? Why is he talking to Elara with that attitude? How can you not be worried? You're still cooking." Her mom shot him a look and shushed him. "Our daughter is right here with us. What's there to worry about? Keep your voice down, you'll wake her. Whatever it is, it can wait until after she's eaten." Her dad thought about it and realized his wife was right. He put the phone in his pocket and started helping with the trash. 40 minutes later, a 6-course meal was on the table. Her mom went to wake her up. Elara opened her eyes and instinctively reached for her nightstand, but her hand found nothing. She looked at her mom, her voice still thick with sleep. "Mom, where's my phone?" At her mom's words, Elara's heart dropped. She shot a sharp glare at her dad. He rubbed his nose and walked in with a sheepish grin, handing her the phone. Here it is, here it is." Before Elara could process what was happening, she took the phone to check the time, but her parents both leaned in close. "Elara, who is Ethan Hawthorne?" Chapter 12, hearing her parents ask that question, Elara froze for at least 10 seconds. She awkwardly ran a hand through her hair, unable to form a coherent sentence. When she started her freshman year, her parents had emigrated and wanted to take her with them. But because she had fallen for Ethan Hawthorne, she refused to go, insisting on finishing her degree in her home country. Although her parents weren't against her dating, the fact that she was the one doing the chasing made her too embarrassed to tell them the real reason. Later, even after she and Ethan got together, she knew how much her parents loved to gossip and didn't want to be endlessly interrogated, so she kept her mouth shut. She kept the secret for 3 years. Her parents constantly urged her to come abroad, and she kept making excuses, stalling even as graduation approached. They were so anxious that they started to suspect she was in a relationship. Just as she was debating whether to tell them the truth, she found the photos of Willow on Ethan's computer. The months that followed were the most difficult of her 21 years of life. Her own parents were college sweethearts who had gone from campus to the altar, remaining deeply in love for 27 years. In contrast, her own 3-year relationship had turned out to be nothing more than a one-sided fantasy. It was too pathetic, too sad, so she decided to keep it a secret forever. She never imagined the truth would come out on her first day in Paris. Her mom, seeing her silent daughter, nudged her dad with her elbow again, then smiled and stroked Elara's hair. "Don't mind your father. Come on, let's eat." At the dinner table, the 3 of them ate in silence, the only sound being the clinking of their utensils. Watching her parents try so hard to hide their awkwardness, Elara's mind raced with 1,000 thoughts before she finally spoke up. "Mom, Dad, Ethan Hawthorne is my ex-boyfriend. We dated for 2 years and just broke up recently." Elara confessed a half-truth. Her parents had already suspected as much. They exchanged another glance before her dad spoke. "I didn't like the way that boy talked. If you ask me, he's not good enough for my baby girl. It's good that you broke up." Seeing the worry hidden beneath her parents' comforting expressions, Elara quickly forced a smile. "Dad's right. We were going to go our separate ways after graduation anyway. It's for the best. This way, it won't interfere with my studies." Hearing this, her mom patted her on the shoulder and gave her a thumbs up. "That's my girl, so determined and strong-willed." The rest of the meal was filled with laughter. After dinner, Elara went back to her room. She froze when she saw the name in her call history, so Ethan had called. No wonder her parents knew. Since her dad said his attitude was bad, he must have been angry about the note she left. After all, he was Hudson University's campus beau. He was used to being the one doing the rejecting. Being broken up with must have been a blow to his pride. But he'd probably only be mad for a day or 2. After all, he didn't really care about her. Once he calmed down, he would realize that breaking up was the best outcome. He was free of her and could follow his heart and pursue Willow. And they all lived happily ever after. What a perfect ending. And they would probably never see each other again. At that thought, Alara let out a soft sigh. Her finger hovered over Ethan's number for a moment. Then, she decisively hit delete. Chapter 13, with her mother's help, it only took Alara an hour to settle into her new room. She was exhausted. After washing up, she fell into bed and was instantly asleep. When she woke up again, the sky outside was dark. She picked up her phone and checked the time, 6 a.m. She had slept for over 10 hours. It was unbelievable. She sat up, hugging her blanket, and turned on the light. The completely unfamiliar room made her pause for a moment before she remembered she was now in Paris. The thought of her parents sleeping in the next room gradually eased her discomfort. A sudden vibration from her phone startled her. She unlocked it, and her sleepy eyes froze on the familiar string of numbers. Even though she had deleted the contact name, Alara knew that number by heart. Why was Ethan calling again? Was he so unable to swallow his pride that he had to call and yell at her? Alara blinked, trying to shake off the last traces of sleep, then resignedly answered the call. She spoke first. "Ethan, I've thought about this for a long time, and I don't think we're right for each other as a couple, which is why I broke up with you. You don't like me anyway, so let's just part on good terms. There's no need to contact each other again." She said it all in one breath. The line was silent, except for the sound of increasingly heavy breathing. After 2 long minutes, Ethan's tired, hoarse voice finally asked her a question. "You break up with me for no reason, and you think you can just dismiss me with a simple, 'We're not a good match.' Do you think that's polite?" Wasn't it polite? Alara thought about it. She didn't think she had done anything wrong. But in the interest of resolving the issue, she replied courteously, "Then what do you want?" "I want to see you. Let's talk about this face to face." His request stunned her for a moment. She refused. "I'm not in the capital. We can't meet." Before she could finish, Ethan cut her off. "I know, I just landed in Paris. Send me your address. I'm coming to find you now." His words left Alara speechless. Her voice was slow, filled with disbelief. "Why are you in Paris?" "You don't need to worry about that. All you need to do is find a coffee shop, send me the address, and wait for me to come talk to you about our breakup." He then added, "I'm not leaving Paris until you tell me why you broke up with me." The next second, the line went dead. Then, a chat bubble from Ethan popped up on her screen. It was a location pin for Beauvais-Tillet Airport, along with a concise message. "Send me the address." Alara never imagined he would fly all the way to Paris to demand an explanation for their breakup, but she had no intention of meeting him. They were broken up. Her conscience was clear. There was nothing more to discuss. So she simply silenced her phone, tossed it aside, pulled the covers over her head, and went back to sleep. She slept for another 2 hours before her mom woke her up for breakfast. After eating, the 3 of them went to the supermarket to stock up on daily necessities, then took a walk in a nearby park before heading home for lunch. When she finally checked her phone again, she saw nearly 100 missed calls and over 300 messages. Alara fell silent. The next second, a new message came through. "You were the one who chased me. Why are you abandoning me now? Alara Monroe, how can you be so cruel?" Chapter 14, the moment he learned Alara was in France, Ethan booked the next available flight to Paris without a second thought. During the long flight, his mind was a mess, constantly replaying the events of the past few years. In his heart, Willow had always been the one. Even after she went abroad, he never let her go, always regretting the confession he never made. He couldn't move on, but he couldn't confess either, forced to endure the daily torment of missing her. Everyone around him told him to move on, to try dating someone new. Maybe then he would get over her. Under his friends' constant persuasion, Ethan began to waver. He decided to give it a try. So, on Alara's 23rd attempt to ask him out, he agreed to be her boyfriend. He chose her simply because she was so passionate, so persistent, so deeply in love with him. In her, he saw a reflection of his own pursuit of Willow. So, in the beginning, their relationship was nothing more than an act of self-pity. Ethan didn't love Alara. He knew it, and she knew it too. But they both tacitly avoided the subject and remained a couple for 3 years. For the first 2 years, although they went on dates like a normal couple, Ethan never truly let her into his heart. It wasn't until their senior year, when they decided to move in together for convenience, that their relationship took a more serious turn. Living together day in and day out, he found himself drawn to Alara. He began to try to accept her love, to accept their relationship. Then Willow came back, and his once settling heart began to waver again. On one side was his childhood friend of over a decade, on the other, his girlfriend of 3 years. He tried to force himself to make a choice, but he couldn't. The long-held habit of favoring Willow made it impossible for him to ignore her, while Alara, who gave her all without asking for anything in return, became his safety net. In his countless dashes to Willow's side, Ethan arrogantly believed he was hiding it well, and so he grew more and more reckless. It wasn't until she left him that note and moved out that he realized things had spiraled out of his control. For the first time, he understood that to him, Alara was irreplaceable. So he dropped everything and flew after her, desperate to win her back. But her rejection made it painfully clear there was no future for them. Ethan couldn't accept this outcome. He frantically tried to contact her, asking everyone he knew for information, but came up empty. Staring at the blank chat window, a profound sense of powerlessness washed over him. He couldn't understand why she would suddenly break up with him, why she would leave. He desperately needed a reason for no longer being loved. After a long, agonizing wait, Alara finally replied. She sent him an address. Without a moment's hesitation, he rushed over. And there, in front of a coffee shop, he saw her. The moment he saw her, he ran towards her, wanting to pull her into an embrace, but she sidestepped him, pushing him away. She lifted her cool, impassive face and reminded him, "We've already broken up. We should keep our distance." Chapter 15, they sat down at a corner table. My gaze was fixed on the tablecloth as I waited for him to speak. Ethan's eyes, however, were glued to me, taking in my every move as if afraid I would disappear again. After the waiter brought our coffees, I took a sip before finally looking up at him, my voice calm. "What did you want to talk about?" "Go ahead." Under the table, Ethan's hand clenched into a fist as he struggled to keep his emotions in check. "Why did you break up with me? Did I do something wrong?" Hearing him ask those questions, a hint of weariness flashed in my eyes. "Isn't it normal to break up when you don't love someone anymore?" His heart clenched at my answer, and a wave of panic washed over him. "You're lying." I noticed his panic, and at first I was surprised. But then I remembered his confident tone outside the haunted house, and I found it almost laughable. "I never lie. When I like someone, I like them. When I don't, I don't. I'm true to my feelings. Unlike you." The first part of my sentence made him even more flustered, while the second part left him confused. "Unlike me?" So even now, he still couldn't see his own heart. Looking at his bewildered expression, I suddenly felt a pang of pity for him. I met his gaze, my voice filled with nothing but honesty. "Unlike you, you're a coward, always have been. You never face your true feelings. You're in love with Willow, but you're too scared to confess. You use me as a placeholder to try and move on, but you're still clinging to the past, refusing to let go." With every word I spoke, the color drained from Ethan's face. Each sentence struck him where it hurt the most, until he could no longer find the courage to look at me. I didn't care what he was thinking. I just wanted to get everything that had been bottled up inside me out. "I know you don't love me. I've always known. I thought if I just tried hard enough, I could win you over. But after Willow came back, I realized that love isn't something you can win through effort. If you don't love someone, you just don't. It doesn't matter if it's 1 year, 3 years, or 10. I'm tired. I don't have the energy to hold on to such a hopeless love anymore. That's why I decided to break up. Perhaps because I poured so much of myself into this relationship, I gave you the false impression that I couldn't live without you. The reason you can't accept this breakup is simply because you can't handle being dumped by someone who once adored you. You only came after me on an impulse. Once you calm down, you'll see that breaking up is the best thing for me, for you, and for Willow. Instead of wasting your time and energy on your ex-girlfriend, you should take a chance and confess to Willow. You have to move forward eventually, don't you?" After my long confession, Ethan sat there, completely stunned. In our relationship, he had never once cared about my feelings, never once thought about our future. In his world, everything just happened. He was pushed along by life, never actively pursuing anything. Even with Willow, he had just silently accepted that they could only be friends. But with me, he just couldn't accept the breakup. Even after I had laid everything bare, he still didn't want to let go. Was it pride or was it love? He couldn't tell the difference. Chapter 16, Ethan remained silent for a long time. I didn't say anything either. After finishing my coffee, I picked up my bag and stood up. Lost in his own world, Ethan's eyes caught my movement, and he immediately stood up too, grabbing my hand. Ilara, I waited patiently for a full minute, but he couldn't seem to find the words. My patience wore thin. I used my other hand to pry his fingers off, one by one. For the sake of the 4 years I liked you, please, let me go, Ethan Hawthorne. The regret in my voice made his heart tremble. He looked at me, his face filled with panic and unease. I'm sorry, Ilara. I know I haven't been a good boyfriend these past few years. I didn't take my responsibilities seriously. Can you please give me another chance? I looked at him steadily, a hint of irony in my eyes. You don't love me. Even if we tried 100 more times, it would never work. Let's just end it here. With that, I turned and walked towards the door without a single glance back. Watching my determined retreat, Ethan felt the strength drain from his body. He collapsed back into his chair, his eyes losing focus. My words replayed in his ears as his mind uncontrollably drifted back to our 3 years together. He rarely replied to my messages, rarely shared his daily life with me, rarely took me out on dates. He had never cared about my feelings, never noticed the changes in me, never expressed his love for me. And yet, I had persisted in such an unrequited love for 3 years. But he had been completely oblivious, instead flaunting his ambiguous relationship with Willow right in front of me, engaging in all sorts of intimate acts. After so carelessly depleting and wasting my love, what right did he have to ask me to come back? The afternoon sun was warm and bright, making me feel cozy. After getting everything off my chest, I felt a lightness in my step. Everything seemed more cheerful. The fountain in the square refracted the sunlight into a rainbow. I took out my phone to take a picture, only to find a flood of new notifications. I opened them one by one. They were all from friends and classmates, asking what was going on between Ethan and me. Reading through them gave me a headache. I didn't know how to reply. After all, Willow was involved, and I didn't want to drag her into it, which meant I had to be careful with my words. I walked and thought, and in the end, I decided that no explanation would be good enough. I simply posted on my social media feed, using the rainbow picture I had just taken. Thanks for all the concern. We broke up amicably. Those few simple words swept through every social media platform at Hudson University like a tornado. The campus beau is single again. Did Ethan Hawthorne finally dump Ilara Monroe? Seeing the exaggerated screenshots of the discussions my roommates sent me, I felt a mix of exasperation and amusement. I couldn't help but ask in our group chat, "Am I that bad? Why is everyone saying Ethan is finally free?" My roommates quickly sent comforting messages. "They're just blinded by the whole campus beau thing. They don't know how great you are, Ilara." Exactly, there are plenty of good-looking guys out there. Don't be sad. We'll find you someone even hotter. Chloe's right, it's not worth being sad over a heartless man like him. Ilara, you've got this. Did everyone really think I was heartbroken? I couldn't help but laugh out loud and quickly typed a reply to set the record straight. I'm not sad at all, because I'm the one who dumped him. 5 seconds later, the chat was flooded with question marks and exclamation points. 10 minutes later, the news that the campus beau had been dumped by his girlfriend had spread like wildfire. And just like that, I became a campus legend. Chapter 17, the moment Willow Shaw saw Ilara's breakup announcement, she immediately called Ethan Hawthorne to confirm. But he seemed to have vanished off the face of the earth, not responding at all. This had never happened before. A sense of panic began to set in, and she sent a few more messages. Hours passed with no reply. Willow grew impatient and decided to test the waters by sending Ilara a surprised face emoji. Did you and Ethan really break up? Why? 5 minutes later, a reply came. I'm studying abroad in France. A long-distance relationship is too much work. I didn't want to do it anymore, so we broke up. Reading those words, a brilliant smile spread across Willow's face, her eyes shining with joy. Now that they were broken up, Ethan would be by her side, and she wouldn't have to scheme to break them apart anymore. That's what she was thinking, but the message she sent back was full of regret. I really thought you two would make it to the end. It's such a shame, but I understand how you feel. Ethan's personality can be difficult to deal with, Besides us, his childhood friends, he doesn't really get close to anyone. You've had a tough few years. I wish you the best with your studies." In response to her passive-aggressive message, Elara simply replied with a thank you. Willow had no desire to waste any more time on someone who was already out of the picture. She grabbed her phone and went to Ethan's house to find him, but he wasn't there. Staring at the closed door, she frowned. Where on earth was Ethan? Anxious to see him, she booked a private room at a nearby tea house to wait. She waited for over 10 hours, even taking a nap, before she finally saw him the next morning. She hurried downstairs and followed him, finally calling out to him at his front door. "Ethan, where have you been? Why haven't you been answering your phone or replying to my messages?" Faced with her whining, accusatory tone, the exhausted Ethan had no energy to reply. "I had some things to do." After his brief response, he turned to go inside. Willow was not satisfied with his answer. She pouted, her voice clearly annoyed. "What was so important? Don't you care about me at all anymore?" Ethan froze. He felt like his head was about to explode. His reply was less than gentle. "I'm really tired right now. Don't be difficult." In all the years they had known each other, Ethan had never spoken to Willow with such a dismissive, impatient tone. She had been pampered her whole life and had been waiting for him all night, her heart full of grievances. She couldn't swallow her pride and her tantrum escalated. "I'm worried about you, and you say I'm being difficult? Ethan, what's happened to you? This is who I've always been." With that cold statement, Ethan slammed the door shut. The loud bang made Willow jump, and tears immediately welled up in her eyes. She bit her lip and glared at the closed door, her face a mask of resentment. She stomped her foot and ran off. Ethan hadn't had a full night's sleep in 48 hours, having flown back and forth between the capital and Paris 3 times. The moment he got home, he collapsed onto his bed and fell asleep. He slept for a full day and night, finally woken by an intense hunger. He groggily stood up and, out of habit, stumbled towards Elara's bedroom. He pushed open the door and called her name a few times, but there was no reply. When his blurry vision cleared and he could see the empty room, he froze like a statue. A chill shot up from the soles of his feet to his heart. He lowered his eyes, trying to hide the sadness and disappointment, but he couldn't stop his body from trembling. He had forgotten. Elara was gone. They had broken up. Chapter 18, following the news of Ethan being dumped, rumors of him drinking himself into a stupor became the new hot topic at Hudson University. No one could have imagined that the golden boy, the campus celebrity, would be so devastated by love. When my roommate sent me the news, my first reaction was that it was just a baseless rumor. It was just a breakup. Why would Ethan be heartbroken over me? It wasn't until Chloe sent a few high-resolution candid photos that I fell silent. There he was, passed out amongst a sea of empty bottles. My roommates flooded the chat with questions. "Elara, didn't you say your relationship wasn't that deep? Then why is he so upset? How was I supposed to know?" I rested my chin on my hand and thought for a long time before venturing a bold guess. He must have just confessed to Willow and been rejected. I couldn't think of any other reason why he would be so miserable. Willow also received the same widely circulated photos. Several of her friends asked if she and Ethan had had a fight, which was why he was so down. Seeing the pictures, Willow's anger, which had been simmering for a day, finally dissipated. She remembered that Ethan had seemed exhausted yesterday, so his slightly harsh tone was understandable. Besides, her own attitude hadn't been great either. She had lost her temper and said some things to him. It was no wonder he had turned to drinking. They had known each other for over a decade. She knew he was the type to keep everything bottled up inside. She decided to go find him and give him an easy way out of their argument. By the time she got the address and arrived, Ethan was still pouring drinks down his throat. His friends were trying to reason with him, but he wasn't listening, just silently refilling his glass. Seeing her arrive, the people in the room looked as if they had been saved. They quickly ushered her in. "Winnie, what took you so long? Hurry up and convince Ethan to stop drinking. Any more and he'll end up in the hospital." Seeing their anxious faces, Winnie feigned embarrassment. "Oh, you should probably just carry him out. How could I possibly convince him? He doesn't listen to me." "Don't be so modest. Everyone in our circle knows Ethan listens to you the most. He does whatever you say." Buoyed by their flattery, Willow felt a little smug. She shyly walked over to Ethan and placed her hand on his bottle. "Stop drinking, Ethan. Come home with me." Ethan looked up at her with hazy eyes and shoved her hand away. "Leave me alone," Willow's expression froze. The others exchanged a look and quickly tried to smooth things over. "Ethan, it's Winnie, aren't you going to go home with her?" Willow also thought he hadn't recognized her. She reached for his hand again to help him up, but Ethan roughly slapped her hand away again, his voice sharp with impatience. "I know you're Winnie, don't touch me. I'm not going with you." Willow's hands clenched into tight fists, her face turning ugly. But Ethan's next words sent the temperature in the room plummeting to absolute zero. "Call Alara. I want her to come get me." Hearing that name, his friends gasped. Alara? Weren't they broken up? Could it be that he was drinking himself into oblivion over Alara, not Willow? The thought made them all afraid to look at her. Being publicly rejected by Ethan time and time again made Willow's anger boil over. And hearing him say Alara's name was the final spark that ignited her fury. "You and Alara Monroe are broken up?" Ethan buried his head in his arms on the table, his voice laced with endless sorrow. "We are. I went to Paris to win her back, but it was no use. Alara doesn't want me anymore." "She doesn't want me?" Hearing his constant mumbling, Willow's mind went blank. She looked at him in disbelief. He disappeared to go try and get back together with Alara. He's been so miserable these past few days because he broke up with her. Willow couldn't accept it. She grabbed a glass of alcohol and threw it in his face, her voice verging on hysterical. "Ethan Hawthorne, what is wrong with you? Have you fallen in love with Alara Monroe?" Chapter 19, the cold liquid shocked Ethan into a state of partial sobriety. He looked up, scanned the room, and slowly repeated Willow's question. It took him a full 5 minutes to process its meaning. Had he fallen in love with Alara? The question spun around in his mind countless times until he finally arrived at a definitive answer. Yes, he had fallen in love with Alara. Why else would his heart ache so much at the news of their breakup? The long silence left everyone in the room bewildered, unsure of how things had taken such a dramatic turn. Then, Ethan suddenly spoke. His words were deliberate, his tone firm. "Yes, I'm in love with Alara Monroe." Hearing this, Willow lost control and slapped him across the face. "Are you crazy? What's so great about her that you can't forget her?" The slap completely sobered him up. He shook his head and closed his eyes tightly. "We were together for 3 years. She was wonderful in every way. It was me who was wrong, who failed her." "But you've already broken up," Willow shrieked. Ethan's expression grew even more somber. "We have, but I don't want to leave her. In 5 days, I'm going to Paris to win her back." The people in the room stared, their mouths agape, unable to believe what they were hearing. As for Willow, his words completely shattered her. Everyone used to say that Ethan was madly in love with her, yet in the 4 years she was abroad, he had never once come to visit. But Alara had been gone for less than a week, and he had already flown to see her once, and now he was planning to go again after being rejected. If he was willing to do all this for his ex-girlfriend, then what did that make her? The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. In that moment, the silence was deafening. Willow felt utterly humiliated. She shot him a look of pure hatred and resentment before turning and running out of the room. The remaining friends exchanged stunned glances before all turning to look at Ethan. "Ethan, are you really going to study in France?" Ethan nodded and opened another bottle of alcohol. "What if Alara doesn't agree to get back together? What will you do then?" Ethan's voice held a strange sort of determination. "I won't give up. As long as she's willing to forgive me, I'll wait for as long as it takes." His friends were silent for a long moment before one of them finally spoke. "What about Winnie? Don't you love her anymore?" Ethan had finally sorted out his feelings. He hesitated for a moment before confiding in his friends. "I did love Winnie, but that was in the past. After being with Alara, I slowly let go of those feelings. I was just too afraid to admit it. Now, I only see her as a sister. Just as she said, our relationship should remain as friends. I'm moving on to a new future." Hearing this, everyone in the room let out a heavy sigh. After all, the two of them had been in a state of ambiguity for so long. It was a shame they couldn't end up together. But since Ethan had made his choice, they would support him unconditionally. They all came forward and clapped him on the shoulder. With their encouragement, his spirits, which had hit rock bottom, slowly began to recover. After finishing the last drop in his glass, he stood up and left with them. Each step he took was firm and resolute. Chapter 20, with a few months left before the semester started, Alara, with nothing much to do, found an internship at an advertising agency. She was studying graphic design, and Hudson University's program was highly regarded internationally. So even as an intern, she was well looked after by her colleagues and superiors. The only issue was that the company was quite a distance from her home, making the daily commute long. Worried she wouldn't get enough rest, her parents rented a small studio for her near the office, telling her to just come home on weekends. Though she was a homebody, 4 years of university had helped her grow, and she quickly adapted to life in Paris. At 8 in the morning, she left for work, bag in hand, stifling a yawn. She suddenly noticed that the apartment across the hall, which had been up for rent, was now occupied. Curiosity piqued, she thought about checking out her new neighbor, but the elevator arrived just then, so she abandoned the idea. As the elevator doors closed, a somewhat familiar voice reached her ears. It was a fluent, standard London accent, and the tone sounded a lot like Ethan's. The sound made her pause. But wasn't he back home, drowning his sorrows? He wouldn't be here. She must have misheard. Alara shook her head, dismissing the unrealistic thought, and geared up for the day ahead. The workload during her internship wasn't heavy, but she was a perfectionist and became so engrossed in her work that she lost track of time. It wasn't until her colleague at the next desk reminded her that she realized it was time to go home. It was Friday, so she planned to grab a few things from her apartment and then head to her parents for dinner. When she got back to her building, she glanced at the closed door across the hall before entering her own apartment. She picked up a bag she had left by the entrance and headed back out. The elevator coming up happened to stop on her floor, the 21st. She stepped aside to let someone out. A very tall person emerged. She was looking down, about to step into the elevator, but the figure remained standing in the doorway, blocking her path. Annoyed at their lack of manners, Alara looked up to see who it was. When she saw Ethan Hawthorne's face, her brow immediately furrowed into a tight knot. "Good evening. What are you doing here?" His calm greeting made her realize that he must have found out her address. And his answer confirmed her suspicion. "I live in 2104. Wasn't that the apartment that had just been rented out this morning?" Alara's expression grew even more solemn. "Why did you come to Paris? And why are you living across the hall from me? Don't tell me this is a coincidence." Seeing her displeasure, Ethan, who had intended to surprise her, had a flicker of disappointment in his eyes. "There are no secrets in this world, Alara. If you're determined enough, you can find out anything." For some reason, his words sent a chill down her spine, and her expression turned even colder. "I don't care if you're determined or not. I just want to make it clear that we are broken up. You can live wherever you want, just don't interfere with my life." Seeing her expression worsen, Ethan grew flustered and quickly explained. "I didn't mean anything by it. I just wanted to be closer to you, to be able to see you every day. Don't worry, I won't bother you at all." Though he sounded sincere, Alara had no desire to waste any more words on him. She turned and stepped into the next elevator that arrived. Before coming to Paris, Ethan had anticipated her cold attitude. But now, seeing her in person, it wasn't just coldness, it was resistance. It completely washed away the small joy he had felt at their reunion. He watched the elevator descend to the first floor before turning back to his new home. The apartment was empty and bare, looking cold and desolate. Ethan put down the bags of things he had just bought and sat on the sofa. He looked around, a wave of sadness washing over him as he thought back to the time he and Alara lived together. Back then, when they first moved into their apartment, it was just as empty, with only a few pieces of furniture. It was Alara who had bought all the furniture, daily necessities, and decorations, filling the space piece by piece, turning a rental into a warm home. But back then, he hadn't known how to cherish it. He had taken all her hard work for granted. It wasn't until she was gone and the apartment was empty again that he finally understood. But by then, her heart had already grown cold. Was there still a chance to win her back? He didn't know. All he knew was that he would, like she once had, give his all for their relationship. This time, it was Ethan's turn to chase Alara. Chapter 21, knowing their daughter was coming home, Helen Monroe had prepared a feast. But when the door opened and they saw the unhappy look on her face, both parents were surprised and rushed to her side. "Alara, what's wrong?" Is work not going well, or are you not happy with your apartment? On the way over, Alara had been stewing over Ethan moving in across the hall. Seeing her parents' worried faces, she quickly forced a smile. It's nothing. Someone just stepped on my foot getting out of the elevator. But parents know their children. They could see her smile was forced and knew it wasn't the truth. However, they had always believed in giving her space, so they didn't press the issue and instead urged her to wash up for dinner. But even with the lavish spread before her, Alara was still distracted, chewing on an empty rib bone without realizing it. Seeing her state, her dad gave her mom a meaningful look. Her mom understood and gently broached the subject. Alara, you've only just arrived in Paris. It's normal to have some trouble adjusting. Why don't you share what's bothering you with your dad and me? We can help you think of a solution. Looking at her parents' concerned faces, Alara's heavy mood began to lift. She took a sip of juice and, after a moment's hesitation, told them what had happened. I ran into Ethan Hawthorne at my apartment building on my way home from work. My ex-boyfriend. At this, her dad's brow furrowed, and he slammed his hand on the table. Is this kid a stalker? He's still pestering you even after you broke up. After dinner, you take me to see him. I'm going to teach that boy a lesson. The loud noise startled both mother and daughter. Alara quickly placed a hand on her dad's arm. He's not exactly pestering me. I was just unhappy to see him. I don't know why he moved in so close to me yet. Dad, please, calm down. Her mom, who had been carefully observing her daughter's expression, suddenly asked a crucial question. Why did you two break up? The question silenced Alara once again. Her mind raced, and she finally gave a vague explanation. He has a female friend he grew up with, and they were very close. I felt like their relationship had crossed the line of normal friendship, and I didn't want to waste any more time on him, so I broke up with him. Her parents' eyes widened at her words. Her dad rapped his knuckles on the table again. What female friend? There's no such thing as a purely platonic friendship between a man and a woman. He was being unfaithful, plain and simple. Good for you for breaking up with him. Dad supports you. Her mom nodded in agreement. Your father is right. If he's involved with another girl, no matter how great he seems, you have to break up with him. Get out early before it becomes a bigger problem and you end up getting hurt even more. I know. That's why I broke up with him and came abroad to end things for good. But now he's followed me here, and I don't know why. That's what's worrying me. Her straightforward dad couldn't bear to see his daughter's worried face and urged her to just call him. Her mom agreed that it was better to find out the truth than to worry alone. Encouraged by her parents, Alara picked up her phone and dialed the number that was now just a string of digits. The call was answered in less than 3 seconds. Ethan's excited voice came through the phone. Alara, talking to her ex-boyfriend in front of her parents, made Alara's palms sweat. But with their encouraging gazes on her, she found the courage to ask. I'm not calling for any other reason than to ask why you suddenly came to Paris. Aren't you in love with Willow? Chapter 22, Ethan thought for a long time before answering her question. I did love her, but that was a long time ago. After I started dating you, I slowly fell in love with you. I only see her as a friend now. The word friend immediately brought to mind the kiss in the haunted house. Do platonic friends kiss? A sarcastic smile involuntarily touched my lips. If Willow hadn't come back, I probably would still be lost in my own world, thinking that your love was just this cold and restrained. You say you love me, but I can't feel your love at all. All I see is your concern and protectiveness for Willow. If your love for her is just that of a friend, then what you feel for me must be less than that of a friend. Ethan Hawthorne, stop deceiving yourself. You've never loved me. Hearing me say this, my parents exchanged a look of shock and heartache. From just these few words, they could guess that the pain I had endured in that relationship was far greater than I had described. On the other end of the line, Ethan was speechless. He couldn't say a word. I hadn't expected to say everything that was on my mind either. Glancing at my parents' worried expressions, I quickly made my stance clear. The day we broke up, I threw all my love for you in the trash. Who you love is no longer important to me. I just want you to know that we may have had a past, but we will never have a future. After coldly stating my piece, I hung up before he could say anything else. Then I let out a relieved smile and winked at my parents. Wasn't that cool? Don't I take after you too? My parents' eyes were red-rimmed. They pulled me into a tight hug. It was very cool. Your father and I are proud of how you handled that. But we hope that if you ever feel sad again, you won't keep it to yourself. Please share it with us, okay? Hearing the catch in my mother's voice, tears welled up in my own eyes. It's all in the past now. I just see him as a stranger. I'm not sad at all, so please don't worry. Seeing their daughter being so considerate only made them feel more guilty. It's all our fault for insisting on moving abroad and leaving you to study alone. If we had been by your side, you never would have had to go through all this. Hearing my parents bring up the past, I dramatically slapped my thigh, feigning regret. You can't blame yourselves for that. I was the one who was blinded by a handsome face and refused to go with you. If only I had listened to you sooner. It's true what they say, if you don't listen to your elders, you'll suffer for it. Seeing my mock-serious expression, my parents couldn't help but laugh through their tears, playfully pinching my cheek. So you finally see how great your parents are, huh? From now on, you'd better listen to our advice and not be so reckless. Yes, sir, yes, ma'am, I'll do as you command. Chapter 23. After that phone call, apart from the occasional encounter in the elevator or hallway, I rarely saw Ethan. He would always try to greet me, but I never once responded, simply walking past him as if he weren't there. Seeing me hurry away from him, a look of despair would cross his face, and he would be down for a while. But the next time we met, he would still greet me with a smile. Life went on peacefully. Aside from my somewhat annoying neighbor, my life was going smoothly. The summer heat began to fade, and my internship was coming to an end. I was busy wrapping up my work and preparing for the start of the new semester, constantly on the go. One evening after work, thinking that I needed some new jackets for the upcoming autumn, I went shopping by myself. After picking out a few that fit well and paying for them, I decided to take a shortcut through a small alley to catch a cab home. I always walked with my headphones in and a baseball cap on, lost in my own world. I didn't notice the two men following me. It wasn't until I was deep in the alley and they blocked my path with knives that I realized I was being robbed. There was no one around. Faced with the cold glint of the daggers, I didn't dare say a word. I obediently handed over my shopping bags and my wallet. The two large muggers snatched my things and ran. I was so scared my whole body felt weak. As I was leaning against the wall, gasping for breath, a figure suddenly ran past me. Thinking I was in more trouble, I looked up, only to see Ethan chasing after the two muggers. He caught up to the one lagging behind, grabbed him by the shoulder, and snatched my wallet back. The mugger swore and tried to fight him for it. His accomplice heard the commotion and turned back to help. As the three men scuffled, I remembered the dagger and was terrified that someone would get hurt. In a panic, I turned and shouted towards the main street. Police, my shout scared the two muggers, and they prepared to flee, but Ethan held on to one of them, refusing to let go. The mugger he was holding happened to be the one with the knife. In his panic, he lost all restraint and stabbed Ethan in the abdomen. The sharp pain forced Ethan to let go. The two muggers kicked him once before taking off. Seeing him collapse, my heart leaped into my throat, and I rushed to his side. When I saw him clutching his stomach, his hands covered in blood, my mind went blank. My hands trembled as I took out my phone and called for an ambulance. Ethan bit his lip hard, trying to keep his tired eyes open as he looked up at me, telling himself not to fall asleep. Seeing his face slowly turn pale, my heart felt like it was going to beat out of my chest. My eyes were wide with panic and anxiety. I kept calling his name while grabbing a new scarf from the shopping bag the muggers had dropped to press against the wound. Time ticked by agonizingly slowly. Willpower could only fight biology for so long. Having lost so much blood, Ethan was fading fast. Just as he was about to pass out, the sound of an ambulance finally reached the alley. I shot up from the ground and ran towards the sound, waving my arms and screaming to help the paramedics find us. Watching my blurry, retreating figure, Ethan heard the thumping of his own heart. The weakness spreading through his body made it impossible to fight the heaviness of his eyelids any longer. With a faint smile, he closed his eyes. Chapter 24. The knife wound Ethan sustained didn't hit any vital organs, and thanks to the timely medical attention, his life was not in danger. Hearing the good news, Alara's frayed nerves finally relaxed. After calling her parents to update them, she returned to the hospital room and looked at the still unconscious Ethan, letting out a long sigh of relief. On the table lay her wallet and shopping bags, stained with blood. The sight of the crimson color brought back the terrifying memory of the attack. Looking at the face on the hospital bed, as pale as a sheet of paper, Ilara's feelings became incredibly complicated. She was robbed on her way home from work. How did Ethan happen to be nearby? Had he been following her? Then why hadn't she noticed? Ilara wrestled with this question for half an hour before her parents finally arrived. After a quick discussion, her mom stayed at the hospital to look after the patient, while her dad accompanied her to the police station to file a report. Just as they were leaving the station after giving their statements, they received news that Ethan was awake. They immediately rushed back to the hospital together. Her mom was sitting outside the room. She gave Ilara a look, gesturing for her to go in. Her dad wanted to follow, but her mom held him back. He could only watch as his daughter walked into the lion's den, his brow furrowed in concern. After taking a moment to compose herself, Ilara pushed open the door. The moment she appeared, Ethan's eyes were glued to her, unblinking. Uncomfortable under his intense gaze, Ilara lowered her eyes to the floor as she shuffled over to his bedside. She spoke with sincere gratitude. "Thank you." Seeing her remain standing, Ethan worried she was about to leave. He tried to prop himself up to pull a nearby chair closer for her, but the movement tugged at his wound. His face contorted in pain. Startled by his pained expression, Ilara thought his wound had reopened and turned to call for a nurse. Ethan quickly stopped her, his voice hoarse. "I'm fine. I just pulled the wound a bit. It hurts." Hearing that his voice was relatively calm, Ilara hesitantly turned back. "Are you sure you're okay?" Ethan nodded and lay back down, pointing to the chair, indicating for her to sit. Ilara obediently sat down, instinctively glancing at his abdomen to make sure there was no new bleeding before she finally relaxed. Having survived this near-death experience and finally seeing an Ilara who wasn't ignoring him, Ethan felt that the stabbing had been worth it. He couldn't help but smile. Ilara, who had been trying to figure out what to say, looked up and saw his smile. A strange, indescribable expression crossed her face. "You just had a brush with death and you're smiling?" Ethan, of course, wouldn't tell her his true thoughts. He explained softly, "I'm happy that you're finally willing to talk to me. Ilara, you haven't looked at me once these past few weeks. It made me really sad." So that's what he was smiling about. Ilara was somewhat speechless. "They had knives. They only took some money and clothes. Why did you have to chase them? If that knife had been just a little off, you could have lost your life." Ilara's tone was filled with lingering fear, but to Ethan, it sounded like pure concern. The smile on his face grew wider. He got a little carried away and spoke without thinking. "Are you worried about me?" Chapter 25, I never thought he would interpret my words that way. My eyes widened in astonishment. "I'm asking if you have a death wish." Ethan stared at me, his eyes shimmering with a gentle light. He spoke each word with unwavering conviction. "For you, I would give my life." I never expected to hear such cheesy lines from Ethan Hawthorne. If this had been a few months ago, I probably would have been moved to tears. But now all I felt was a silent awkwardness. Seeing my silence, Ethan couldn't help but speak again. "They didn't hurt you, did they?" I was too late. "You must have been terrified." His words reminded me of the question that had been nagging me before I went to the police station. My gaze turned strange. "Why were you following me? It couldn't have been a coincidence." Ethan clearly hadn't expected me to ask that. His mind blanked, unsure of how to answer. His silence seemed to confirm my suspicions, and the doubt on my face deepened. Ethan, watching me, grew anxious, afraid I would get angry and ignore him again. He had no choice but to tell the truth. "The company I'm interning at is in the building across from yours. When I was leaving work today, I saw you took a different route, so I followed you to see where you were going. That's when I saw you being robbed. I was afraid your wallet had important documents in it, so I thought I'd help you get it back. I didn't know they had knives." As he spoke, he kept an eye on my expression. Seeing me revert to my blank-faced state, he quickly apologized. "I'm sorry, Ilara. I didn't mean to follow you. Was today the first time you followed me, or have you been doing it all along?" Faced with my pointed question, Ethan hesitated, still wanting to argue. "I wouldn't really call it following. It's just that we get off work at the same time, so I always end up getting home right after you." So he had been following me for 2 or 3 months? No wonder I kept running into him. It was all premeditated. I couldn't help but feel annoyed at my own lack of awareness. I glanced at the uneasy Ethan, my tone less than friendly. I thought I made myself clear before. No matter what you do, I will not get back together with you. Hearing those words from me again, the little bit of confidence Ethan had managed to build up crumbled. The light in his eyes dimmed and his voice was low. I know, I'm not trying to force you to be with me. I just want to be near you. Can you please not push me away? His pleading tone left me at a loss for words. I lowered my head and thought back to the past. Wasn't Ethan supposed to be naturally aloof, a man of few words? How was it that now, every time he opened his mouth, he left me speechless? Seeing him about to say more, I got goosebumps and quickly cut him off. You're injured and need to stay in the hospital. Shouldn't you contact your family? Ethan had a feeling he knew what I was going to say next. His mind raced. My family is very busy with work. I doubt they have time to fly over and take care of me. His words left me looking confused. Their son had been stabbed, and his parents wouldn't even come to see him. Chapter 26, Seeing my disbelief, Ethan quickly tried to elaborate. Actually, the reason my personality is so withdrawn is related to my parents being so focused on their careers and neglecting me. They're constantly traveling for business trips and meetings. Sometimes a whole month goes by without me seeing them. This injury isn't life-threatening, so they most likely won't come. Seeing that he didn't have the same look he got when he used to lie, I was inclined to believe him. Then aren't you going to tell Willow? At my question, Ethan grew agitated, eager to prove once again that there was nothing between him and Willow. She doesn't actually care about me that much. It's just that I used to be so in love with her that she enjoyed being spoiled by me, which is why she stayed so close. His words surprised me. So Ethan was just like me, the one who gave more in the relationship. Remembering how he used to chase after Willow while she ignored him, I suddenly felt a sense of vindication. What goes around comes around. I wanted to laugh, but considering the situation, I held it in. I picked up my things from the table and said coolly, "You got hurt saving me, so I'll be responsible for you while you're in the hospital. Just focus on getting better. I'm leaving now." Ethan wanted to ask me to stay, but when he heard what I said, a delighted smile spread across his face, and he readily agreed. "I'll rest up and wait for you to come back." I didn't reply, just hurried out of the room. The next day, as Ethan waited in eager anticipation, my mom walked in with a thermal container. His hopes for the day were dashed. Seeing the older woman, his expression quickly became more reserved as he cautiously asked about me. "Ma'am, where's Ilara?" My mom placed the container on the table, glancing at him briefly. "Ilara is at work. She doesn't have time to come see you. I'll be the one coming from now on. If you need anything, just let me know." His heart sank at her words and his voice dropped. "Is she very busy? Does she really not have any time to come?" My mom's opinion of Ethan, the boy who had risked his life to save her daughter, had softened slightly, but not by much. She unscrewed the lid and handed him a bowl of chicken soup. Even if she weren't busy, she wouldn't have time to come. After all, you're her recent ex-boyfriend. She doesn't have feelings for you anymore, so seeing you would probably just annoy her. Ethan knew my mom was telling the truth, but he still couldn't quite accept it. A look of despair crossed his face. I didn't mean to bother her. I just can't let go of the past. I wanted to try one more time. Although she didn't know what had happened between the two of them, remembering her daughter's expression made my mom's heart as hard as steel. She said what had been on her mind. "Whatever happened in the past is in the past. My daughter is a kind-hearted girl. She always leaves room for forgiveness unless the other person has done something truly unforgivable. This time, she is determined to cut ties with you, which means the conflict between you two has gone beyond her breaking point. If you really cared about her, how could you have let things get so bad?" Faced with my mom's questioning, Ethan knew he was in the wrong and couldn't offer a single word of defense. "Your time together is over. Don't try to force it. If you keep pestering her, it will only make her resent you more. You've gone from lovers to strangers. Do you really want to become enemies? Take my advice and move on with your life." Chapter 27, Ethan knew that my mom was right. He had told himself the same thing many times. But whenever he closed his eyes, his mind would be flooded with memories of our time together. For most of his life, he had longed for someone who would love him wholeheartedly. He once thought that person was Willow, but she only wanted to be friends. It was only after I left that he realized that person had already appeared in his life, but he had hurt her too deeply. The belated guilt and regret made him cast aside all reason. All he wanted was to win me back, to keep me by his side. But reality showed him that everything he was doing was only pushing me further away. In that moment, he was lost and in pain, torn and hopeless. On one side was his innate stubbornness. On the other, the rational decision to let go. He couldn't make up his mind. My mom, seeing that her words seemed to be getting through to him, continued, "You're both still young. You haven't experienced much, haven't met many people. That's why you're stuck in a relationship that should have ended. Stop following Alara. You're only holding her back and hindering your own future. Life is long and full of possibilities. Instead of wasting your energy on the past, you should look forward." During Ethan's hospital stay, I only visited him once, just before the semester started. I don't know what happened during that time, but he seemed like a different person. The cold arrogance was gone, as was the stubbornness of the past few weeks. After our breakup, we were finally able to sit and talk calmly, our conversation no longer revolving around love and relationships, but about the future. Ethan told me that he had decided to return to his home country to continue his studies after he recovered. He wouldn't be staying in Paris. Hearing this, I finally breathed a sigh of relief and offered him my best wishes. "With your talent, you really should continue your development back home. I wish you a bright and successful future." Seeing me finally smile, a corner of Ethan's mouth lifted as well. "What about you? Are you going to continue studying design?" I nodded. "That's great. Studying in Europe will open up a lot of opportunities for you. You should work hard too. I look forward to seeing your designs in magazines one day." We chatted for a few more minutes. I glanced out the window and saw that it was getting dark, so I stood up to leave. Watching my retreating back, Ethan felt a faint ache in his chest again. He couldn't help but call out to me. "Alara." Hearing my name, I turned back, a look of surprise on my face. "Is there something else?" Ethan hesitated for a moment before finally asking the question that had been weighing on his heart. "Are we friends now?" I tilted my head and thought for a moment before giving him an uncertain answer. "I guess so." A brilliant smile bloomed on Ethan's face. He raised his hand and waved goodbye. With a soft click, the hospital room door closed and the light in the room dimmed. Ethan looked out the window. The sun was setting over the mountains, its warmth obscured by large, dark clouds. He closed his eyes, a sense of loss washing over him, leaving only a soft whisper. "The sun has set."